You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. This is interesting. We've got two different entities that are very high profile that we want to discuss for the Buffalo Bills job. One of them is somebody that you would assume that a team would want to reach out to, possibly, but they're not going to. And all I got to say is, and let's just be honest, in my opinion, the disinterest in Bill Belichick is more about Jordan Hudson and her involvement in all of Bill's entire situation and how big of a mess that became very publicly when he was hired by North Carolina. Of course, we had all the stories coming out that she was involved in things going on in North Carolina, around the program, at the facility, all of that got very, very public, combined with that very strange, very viral CBS Sunday morning interview where she stopped the interview, and all of a sudden things got much weirder than they already were. I think if you just look at North Carolina, I don't think NFL teams give a shit about him winning 4 games at North Carolina. I don't think they want the drama around Bill. We will get to that in a minute. All right? I got a couple of other things ahead of that, and let's just start here. Let's start with the reinstate Sean McDermott petition that Bills fans started. I did this video yesterday, and I believe it was around 65,000 fans. Well, since yesterday, this petition's added 11,000 more signatures to it. So basically, around about 24 hours, 11,000 more fans. Now, to be clear, he's not coming back. Okay, they're not bringing Sean McDermott back. You know what you need to start a petition for? To fire Brandon Beane. That's what you ought to fire a petition for, because, in my opinion, it would only be right. Not only that, but I don't know if you notice how big of a mess the Cleveland Browns head coaching search is. That's in large part because of the lack of respect that coaching candidates are giving Andrew Berry. How great does Brandon Beane really look right now? That's why I think you will end up with Brian Daboll as the coach of the Bills. Okay, because there's a relationship between him and Beane. And Daboll already, I think that already understands the dynamic between those two. That's why I think ultimately he gets this job. By the way, he is in the running for the Raiders job. They confirmed that on NFL Game Day morning. Bills, Raiders are in on Brian Daboll. And of course, he's got a relationship with Tom Brady, right? But this is the crazier thing, possibly. He's in the running for the Bills. But listen to this.
Daboll, head coach first, then offensive coordinator prospects after that, Ian.
Like, one of the biggest stories of the year was Philip Rivers coming back to the field. Unbelievable. And actually, it is not done yet. Philip Rivers interviewed over the last several days for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job in person. That is real. This actually happened. And my understanding is this is under serious consideration. Sound like in the interview process, he crushed it. And I know he has been just a high school coach, but he's basically been a head coach and essentially play caller on every team he's been in over the last decade or so. Philip Rivers has a strong connection around the league of veteran coaches. Guys like Frank Reich would be one. Guys like Gus Bradley with another. He could pull an impressive staff. This is certainly one to keep an eye on. Bill's not done interviewing, though. They talked to Grant Udinski today.
Very interesting. The Bills seriously considering Philip Rivers. And the interest in him is real. for the sake of I always tell you guys, I'm rooting for interesting. Oh my God, I hope this happens. I hope Phillip Rivers gets that job because that is extremely interesting. And it would be fascinating to see because of the dynamic. And we saw he won over that Colts locker room immediately upon returning. Those Colts players played their asses off for Phillip Rivers. So that would be very interesting. We certainly know he's old enough. He's 44. He knows offense inside and out. He can teach it. He can play call. He can do all those things. Wow. That's interesting. You listen to that, and you would get the sense it's Brian Daboll and Phillip Rivers. But that's the two guys right now for Buffalo. So let's go over here. All right. Per a source, who's this? Florio? Yep. Per a source with knowledge of the situation, the Bills are not interested in Bill Belichick. At one level, it's surprising if the Bills are going to interview someone like Phillip Rivers for the job. Why not kick the tires on the Tar Heel coach? At a much different level, Belichick has morphed from GOAT in a good way to GOAT in the usual sense. He's currently regarded as radioactive. Yikes. Nuclear toxicity. By most NFL teams looking for a coach. And has only himself to blame thanks to bizarre distractions he created at North Carolina over the past year and his open hostility towards his longtime employer in New England. Any NFL owner would be inclined to hire Belichick would have to assume that eventually some of the same venom will be directed to his next former team. Look, I think the moment that we found out the Giants didn't have any real interest there, I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. Now, the one other job I've always thought about for him was Buffalo. All right, I've said that many times. You pair the GOAT of all-time coaching up with Josh Allen and Bill. We all know after his fascination with Cam, he likes these big, large, mobile quarterbacks, that there would be something to Bill and Josh Allen. But you heard what I said a second ago. Bill's not in the running, not because of 4-8 at North Carolina. He's not in the running because of Jordan. I mean, I'm sure they would come out and deny it. And sure, is that technically speculation by me? Sure. But you heard what Florio said. He's viewed as radioactive because of the bizarre distractions. Well, where the hell do we think those distractions came from? I've said that the one question I wanted answered was, did Bill not get the Atlanta Falcons job? Because, look, I'll never forget it. It was a Friday afternoon. I went to bed knowing that Bill Belichick was the next coach of the Falcons. I wake up the next morning, find out they're interviewing Jim Harbaugh, and then all of a sudden it just disintegrated. Was Jordan Hudson's close day-to-day involvement as Bill's manager, whatever, did the Falcons say, no, we don't want that. The situation feels weird, and we ultimately don't want to be involved with it. I think there's got to be somebody, especially now that people have been run out with the Falcons that were involved in that process. Terry Fontenot, there's got to be somebody out there that knows whether or not Jordan's involvement with Bill was a deterrent for him ultimately not getting that job that it looked like he absolutely had. Something caused them to make a left turn. I mean, at a 90, I mean, out of there. All of a sudden, they were gone, and that job was gone. And was it the weirdness there and that some of that involvement that we've heard about around North Carolina that she would have had around the Falcons organization, and people were like, she's got nothing to do with football. Man, I'd love to know that. I would. Guys, it sounds like Phillip Rivers is like a real contender. And then the Sporting News came out the other day and said, at the very least, they may look to put him on staff as the QB coach or as the offensive coordinator. Now, I don't see the point. If you hire Brian Daboll, why would you hire Phillip Rivers as the OC? You know? Because Daboll is going to be the one calling the plays. Well, hell, I want Phillip Rivers calling the plays. I mean, we literally watched him disintegrate the Niners defense on Monday Night Football in real time. He knew the plays that were coming and was adjusted all night long on the fly. Tell me what you think. This is so crazy. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you resubscribe. Check your subscription. Make sure you're still subscribed. Check out blackwhitenetwork.com. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.